Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. Okay, so I'm just going to start out saying today is a new day. Today is going to be okay. If you are feeling like me lately, step away from the news. I cannot reiterate this enough. Get yourself outside. Do something if you're a mom or you're a grandmother or you're a aunt or you just do something with friends. Get outside, talk to each other. Try to stay away from the things that we're all feeling right now in our country and sadly all over the world. If you're listening, everybody's kind of going through it right now. So what I like to say to myself, and, I got off the phone with a friend a little while ago that was kind of in a rough place. Get outside. I live by the beach. We all know that I talk about my walks with my dogs that I love so dearly. And I have to just make sure that I remind myself and I remind all of you that in the history of the world and the history of our country, we have been through really rough, bad times, and we are going to be okay. Be kind, be patient with others, show love. If you're spiritual, get out there, pray. I think that's a huge piece of it. And I am going to just tell you it's going to be okay. And when you're somebody like me that's a survivor of trauma or been diagnosed with complex PTSD, this time can be challenging. And so I have to remind myself, just like I'm reminding all of you, that it's going to be okay. All right. I am going to introduce Stephanie Maley. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm great.
I would love some thoughts on what I just said, but I'm going to really quickly give your quick bio. Stephanie is a survivor of trauma. She is an advocate, and she is also an author, and her new memoir will be out on November 4th, and her book is called No Longer That Girl, Retracing the Scars of Past and Present. Welcome. It's so nice to meet you today.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I can easily respond to what you just were talking about. The beginning of my book, and really what got me started on doing my memoir, was I panicked when COVID came. I completely shut down. I am a former pediatric nurse, and my husband's a pediatrician. And one day I just sat there and was like, I'm going to die. It's before we knew a lot about it. Yeah. And my therapist was like, I said, I just hope you'll change your mind and do teletherapy, in a text. And I get it back, go outside and hike and, do all these things. I said, you don't understand. I think I need to write my funeral plans. There's no way out of this. Wow. And so for years, I have been trying to stay focused on all of my health. But that really challenged me, and it brought back vulnerabilities from my past. It's
let me ask you something, because I know your story is very hard, but I think, and I'm assuming you also have complex PTSD, which stems from childhood and all of the things you've been through. Sometimes when we're trauma survivors, things like COVID, I remember when COVID hit too. And thankfully, I don't have any that I know of, knock on wood, any underlying conditions. But if you do, I can't even imagine, because I remember thinking it's the end of the world and washing the groceries and all of the things and yes. Thinking it's so scary. So do you think that, were you dealing with some underlying conditions, or was it just me being like, oh no, this is the end of the world? Anything like that could bring on some kind of panic. Tell me about that.
So I have asthma.
Okay.
I have asthma and I'm allergic to everything outside, but I still take my daily walks with my dog and a neighbor and her dog, to keep the endorphins flowing, especially like you say, of all that's going on in our world right now. Yeah, so I have asthma, and I was diagnosed when I was 11. I was in an oxygen tent for 2 weeks and almost died. But then we realized, the hay truck for a youth group, she shouldn't have probably been in that. She's allergic to it. So seeing these people, these Italians dying and not knowing everything, and being a nurse, I'm like, you know how this spreads. My husband is exposed. We don't know enough about it. My husband is exposed to the children and their parents in a small room every day. What to do? And oddly, eventually my therapist called me right back and she said, what's going on? And so I told her, she goes, we need to help you feel safe because you're not feeling safe in your own home. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what hit me. And so she said, you need to call your allergist asthmatic doctor and you need to call CDC and see what they say. But in the meantime, have him wear a mask. When he comes home, put his clothes in the washing machine. He showers and you stay apart from each other. And I remember going, I'm a nurse. He's a pediatrician. It took my therapist to come up with this idea because CDC, I was on hold for an hour and 10 minutes. I was that desperate. Mm-hmm. I stayed on the infernal phone trying to get an answer like, what do you need to tell us with medical people? We're not every day. He is exposed every day, possibly. And
did you end up not working? I mean, I'm assuming
you I was a professional photographer, and so
okay. You just step away.
I did some eventually when the vaccine had come in, and I kept distance or wore my mask just because I did a lot of families and shoots and things. So I was able to stay home, and I had foot surgery. And I couldn't walk anyway. And it was a lot of stuff was going on, but it opened the time for me to be able to write. But staying,
I love that you found that positive piece because it is so important. If we just go to the place, because COVID was extremely traumatic I think people kind of forget. I know unless I think about it and you bring that stuff up, I remember the very beginnings of it. We were all like, is this the end of the world? Are we all going to die? We were watching what was happening in Italy. Right. And so many people did die. So we need to remember that and be grateful that there was a vaccine. So it really angers me when people kind of don't bring that piece of it up and make it political because it is a disease and it can kill people and it did kill people.
Yes,
but what I was going to say is the amount of trauma in the beginning that it caused and people not believing it was just you bringing it up right now brings it all back. It was very scary. And I can't even imagine how scary it was for people like you with asthma and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then having a medical person who is dealing with sick kids and stuff, and you don't know what it is. And I just knew he was going to come home. I mean, I just knew it. I remember sitting there on the couch going, oh my gosh, I'm going to die.
And here's the thing that I want you and the listeners to think about, and myself, we got through it. Yes. Thankfully, knock on wood, we're on the other side. So let's piece that all together. We're going to get through this time too. We're going to all be okay. And please remind yourself of that if you're listening and you're stressed about what's going on like I am. Okay. So I would love to know a little bit more about you. So let's start with, where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about your childhood. I know that it was a rough go.
Yeah. So I'm born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and my birth father was just finishing his residency, and they had my brother who was 2 years old. And as soon as his residency finished, he took a radiological technologist, her hand, and took her to Sioux Falls. I was 3 months old and my brother was 2, and he left my mom and moved up there and had an affair. So my mom was single. She did meet my stepfather when I was 18 months old, but they didn't marry until I was in second grade. And so so there was a lot of stuff happening. You pick up on that even when you're really young. And I knew I didn't have a normal family, kind of thing. So actually in second grade, when I was around 7, I had my first experience with some sexual abuse where I was giving one of our teachers, a second grade teacher, she would get volunteers to rub her neck while she read a story. And I got picked. My best friend got picked. I was so excited. And then a 17-year-old came into the room and she goes, "Oh, this is my son. And he's going to go to the school-wide movie with everybody. And you, Stephanie, and the other person get to walk with him." And I was like, wow, this is my day. I can't believe I get to do this. And so basically, as soon as the lights went down, and I did not know what to do about it. I heard my friend basically say no. And I'm like, well, why don't I have my voice? Where did my voice go? And this can't be right. And then shame just took over. It just completely took over at that moment. And again, my parents weren't yet married. And I just think there was a lot of vulnerability, and I was ripe for predators, so to speak. And so that ended up shutting me down in a lot of ways. I had been I'm athletic. I had just gregarious and that kind of stuff. And I thought, I'm not raising my hand anymore or volunteering. And I can't stand my teacher now. Does she know what her son has done and what he's doing? And, there was just a lot right there. And so anyway, when my parents did marry, there was some stability in the home. We were a little bit on the poorer side for sure. And, but there was just a lot of chaos, I guess I would be able to say. And in the end, my parents didn't make it. I was 15 when he left, but I had been feeling the fabrics of our family coming, undone for past 2 or 3 years prior to that. And I seemed really much more in tune with that. I know my mom was. And I always wanted to make her happy. I have since learned that was never my job, but I wanted my mom happy. She had a rough time of it. And
I think that's normal. And I hate to interrupt you, but no. I just want to say how sorry I am, because that is horrific. And your abandonment, the amount of abandonment that you had at such a young age. And what I find interesting, I shouldn't even use the word interesting, but how predators can find us.
Oh, yeah.
Like people that have been through things, they have a way of sniffing it out.
They do.
And that's it's almost like I don't even know how to explain it, but just hearing you say, your real father left when you were that young.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's almost like you're looking for somebody to just be come in and save you. And your little second grade self looking up to this 17-year-old boy, which is horrific.
Yeah.
And coming in like he's some kind of knight in shining armor, right? Because I remember being that age and having crushes on older boys, but our brains just are what is going on, and the guilt and the shame that you had to carry. I am so sorry. And I think for survivors of abuse, they can, when you share what you just shared, it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear, but also relatable. So I just want to say that, how sorry I am to hear that. And then the shutting down piece, trying so hard to reach out to a world where it's almost like a feeling of a Pollyanna, it's going to be okay. And they took that 17-year-old boy, took it away. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And being a Southerner, as you can tell, we're taught to be nice and kind and almost put other people's needs in front of our own. It's just kind of a cultural thing. And I'm sure it's not just in the South, but it's definitely heavy in the South. And so I don't want to rock the boat. I'm just going to keep my mouth closed. And I didn't feel comfortable sharing that. I wanted my mom happy. When my stepfather, who, raised us for a period of time, when he's home, it was all good, but then it started coming apart. And I thought, if he would just be home, she'll be okay, kind of thing. And it was really hard. And then when my parents are unraveling at home, we get a seminarian. I'm an Episcopalian, and our church would get seminarians from a school of theology in Sewanee, Tennessee. Anyway, long story short, he pegged me right away. My brother and I happened to be in the same Sunday school. We were never close. And we're having a tiff right in front of him. And then he's like winking at me. And the next thing I know, he is spending time with me. He's doing the grooming thing. I didn't even know the word groom until I was writing the book. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a term for that. And it is textbook. I mean, it's like they all have this little textbook. These little predators are going, oh, and she'll be great for that. So I see everybody treat him really well, think he's incredible. And he was married, invited me to spend a week or so up in Sewanee in the summer. And, and it went from holding hands to kissing to touching me, and that kind of thing. And again, I'm like, everybody thinks the world of him, but this just can't be right. This can't be okay.
How old were you at that time?
I was 14.
So it was just one thing after another.
Yes, that has been the case. It was one thing after another.
And it was also the people-pleasing piece of it.
Right.
Because you brought up your mom, and I can relate to that myself because I've spent my whole life trying to be like, okay, I just want my mom to be like my mom. We went through a lot growing up too. Well, maybe if I do this, my mom will be happy. Or maybe it's like the guilt shame cycle, yes, right? Of the people pleaser.
Yeah.
And that's horrifically hard. And then just the abuse after the abuse. So tell me, did you tell anyone? You didn't. Okay. So you held both of these assaults in. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll say even in before that even happened, I ended up having, when I was 12, a breast tumor that came through my chest wall and I hadn't developed, and I didn't tell anybody about that. And that became it was a big deal. It was as big as my doctor's fist, but I didn't tell anybody, but it grew so quickly. And then in one day I am seeing the pediatrician, a gynecologist, and a surgeon, and in the hospital the next day, and nobody prepares me. It's all adult medicine. And the GYN ended up doing a vaginal exam on me and didn't explain. My mom just cried behind my shoulder, and it was just awful. I'm thinking, my breast is up here. What are you doing? And so that was pretty traumatic. And then it came back 10 months later. I had just spent 2 weeks in the hospital with the asthma. So anyway, all these different vulnerabilities that were out of my control, kind of thing. And so with this seminarian, it was like 2 years, and until he eventually graduated. But everybody expected me to go to his graduation, have him in my life, because they knew how close we were. And I'm just always thinking, if only you knew, if you only knew. I mean, but, y'all think he's great and everybody's treating him like he's wonderful, but you have no idea. And I loved the attention. Wasn't close to my brother. My mom and my dad are falling apart. I'm on my own. I played shot hoops by myself for hours. I played fast pitch softball. I threw against a thing that would feed it back to me, and spent a lot of time alone. And now he's wanting to play with me, and he's athletic. And, so that happened. And then, anyway, and then another thing that occurred is I moved to get to know my birth father. I met him when I was 13. I didn't want to meet him. And my stepfather thought it was really important. And he was a great dad. I mean, really, for those period of years that we had him. but there was all that daddy issue stuff as well, and again, those predators.
Like the abandonment of your real dad. You felt abandoned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was. I mean, I didn't meet him for 10 years. 10 years, 13 years. I was 3 months old when he left. So
did he ever tell you why? Like, did you question it? Yeah. That's, it is interesting. I'm not Southern. Although I was born in Potomac, Maryland, which is technically, they say over the Mason-Dixon line. But my mom had a house in Charleston, South Carolina. I went to boarding school with a lot of Southern girls. It is like a cultural thing in the South, I believe, like where it's like the man is always right. You have to kind of like take a step back. And so I could see that, but I just find it so upsetting to hear that it was like one thing after another, and you just feeling like you were unable to find your words and how do you get out of this? Exactly. My question to you is, a lot of times when we're in situations, like for me, I was an actor. Like my whole life I acted and I sang and I would escape into characters. Okay. Yeah. What was your kind of escape of like almost being an out of body experience to be able to put up with this? Was it basketball? Was it playing sports? What was it?
It was playing sports. Absolutely. Okay. Hands down. And I had a lot of anger growing up, and it was a socially acceptable way to express that anger. And I happened to be athletic. And so I played like 13 years of fast pitch and basketball for 9. And I did volleyball. And eventually I learned to play squash, which was down the road when I moved to Las Vegas to get to know because eventually my dad ended up there. He was an anesthesiologist and he ended up in Vegas. And so I learned to play squash as well. And I mean, sports was my medicine. I could disappear in it. I was good at it. Being a catcher, I'm responsible for everything out there. I can see it all. And I had a superpower in my right arm. I could throw people out. I was small, skinny and stuff. But so that was the gift. And I had my faith. I had this experience. When I was 8 years old, I was spending the night with a friend. She had moved away. There was duplexes across from our house, and they eventually moved. And she had kind of a rough background. Her dad was a live wrestler, and it was just, And it was a Sunday, and they didn't go to church. And I remember having seen a little church down the road, and I just wanted to go to church because I always go to church. That's my thing. And so she went with me. Her mom let us go. We walked down the street around this corner to this little church, and it was really finished. And so she stood there for a minute and she goes, I don't know these people. I'm going home. And she left. And I'm staying there like, oh my gosh, I really should have called. I didn't know what to do. I was just 8. And so I ended up leaving not long after her. And on that walk back, I just felt so badly, like I had let God down. I actually knelt on the street. It's a country road, and I just started praying. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you, and I don't know why I didn't go. And I didn't know they were different times than my own church. And during that prayer, I felt God's hand. And this might get me, but I felt His hand on my shoulder and said, "You are okay. You are more than okay. I love you. It's okay that you didn't go to church."
Aww.
And
you're making me cry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. I mean, I part of me though questions that faith piece, like the faith piece of wanting to, because again, that was, you were involved in the church, and what was it was the person that
he was training to be an Episcopal priest. And yes, okay. I had that asked a lot, like, why did I stay in the church?
Yeah.
And I think on some level, because there were so many other good people in my life. One of them just died a couple of days ago, but
sorry,
it was time. No, it was my coach's wife. And they were like a second parent to me, and I had a motorcycle license. I could go 7 miles away, and I would spend time with him. There were wonderful people in the church, and I just felt like he's a person. And yes, he's in the Episcopal Church, but I feel close to God, and I feel a lot of love here. His love is not right. I know it's not right. But I was able to separate it. I've had other friends who are Episcopal priests. Why in the hell did you stay Episcopalian?
No, I understand because I grew up Catholic. So,
I went to Catholic schools.
Yeah. So I went to Catholic school my whole life. To me, faith is really important, and it looks different, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
But what I think, whether you believe in organized religion or you just believe in God and you're spiritual, this is just my opinion. Again, I so many times in my life have had things that have happened. And I mean, I can name one last summer. Like, I was in a really, really bad place. And I was starting, I've struggled with depression. I have my whole life. And I almost felt that same kind of feeling, like where I one night was on a vacation. I went outside. I was sobbing. I felt hopeless. And I felt this like spiritual connection that I can't really put into words. And so I think that if I didn't have my faith, I don't know where I would be today. I think it's a really important piece of my life, and I'm very grateful because I've been in and out of my faith and throughout my life, where I've been like, I'm angry, God. Why did you take my dad away?
Yeah.
Why did you take Julie away? Like, these are all people I've lost. Why did you take my sister away? Why? It's like there's reasons we're never going to understand until we're there again. But I believe we go to heaven. That's what I believe.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you were able to find that and get you kind of through, because I think when we have nothing else, this is just my opinion, it's really incredibly powerful to be able to just have your faith.
Absolutely.
Right?
I don't agree without it.
Yeah.
I actually, when I was 23, I didn't know we had nuns in the Episcopal Church, and we do, and we have a convent up in Sewanee, Tennessee, where the School of Theology is. Mm-hmm. And I was introduced to the sisters, and I, at 23, chose a way of living that I have followed since then, and I'm an associate at the convent. So I go for silent retreats, or since I was 23 and I'm 63 now, which is a little unusual, but I know. But
I don't think that is at all. I love that. I think that's great.
Oh, I love it. They're so much fun. And one of them was the cousin of Madeline Langle, and her name was Sister Madeline, spelled the same way. And I just adored her. And of course, the sisters in the beginning are gone, but I still go and I support financially, and I follow a way of life, which is what you're talking about, being in nature. I read the Bible. I always trying to stretch myself intellectually, and, blah, blah, blah. There's just a lot that I formulated that I think would be a balanced kind of life.
I think it's important, and I'm sorry to go off on this little tangent for you and listeners in the middle of your story, but I will say this. I do not like what's happening and how religion and God and spirituality is being used. It's making me so angry, because if you say, I love God, or I'm spiritual or something, people make it political right now, and it's not. And for the people hiding behind religion and taking it, that makes me even more infuriated, because it's like false gods is what's happening right now. And so that's really hard for me, because I think I'm Christian. This is who I am. This is how I've been brought up my whole life. This is mine. And you're taking something and like making it bad almost when it's
Absolutely.
not. Right?
And it turns other people away.
It turns other people away.
Because that's what Christianism, that's what being a Christian is.
Yeah. Love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Right? So, and I live in LA, so I'm seeing all of this horrific stuff going on. But I was going to say this one little point. And for my listeners in DC, because I grew up in DC, they'll understand this. So I went for my freshman and sophomore year of high school to Georgetown Visitation. My sister is still a teacher there. And it's one of the original convents in the country. So Catholic convents. Okay. And these nuns, which I think there's very few left right now of this order, but, there was one in particular. One day I was in the infirmary because I was probably faking sick. I was always in trouble. And this nun comes in, and it was like one of those moments that I've had in my life where when you know you're around somebody that's not of this world, I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yes.
Where you go, I feel like I'm sitting, and I believe in saints, with somebody that is not of this world. And I was going through a really rough time in my personal life because I didn't understand it. I was probably like 15 years old. My mom was married to a really abusive, mentally abusive stepfather. I was dealing with the loss of my dad, all of this stuff at once. And she came in and she started to like rub my forehead, like, but in a really loving way, and sat there with me and talked to me for probably a solid hour. And I've never forgotten it. I have never forgotten that time, that little hour of my life and what she said to me. Yeah. So I had to say that because you brought up that the sisterhood and nuns and all of that stuff. Because maybe for my listeners right now, they're going, oh, I don't believe in organized religion, or I don't believe in God, and I'm not trying. Yeah, I'm not trying to force that on any of my listeners. But what I'm trying to say is this, to me, has helped me stay on the planet. And I think that I can get that from you as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I deal with major depressive disorder as well. I have to take medication and, things like that. Absolutely. It is what makes it. And it's what I keep just trying to hold on to, just love. Even, we're supposed to love enemies and all of that. And so
I have a hard time with that one, but I'm working on it.
I have friends who are like really struggling with that too. But, that is what has kept my sanity. Yeah. And yet it was also a place where a lot of harm came, but just with, that individual. But it's been it keeps me every day going. I mean, it really does.
I'm sorry we went off on that tangent, but I think it's really important, and it's a piece of your story and mine. And so let's go back into kind of for the sake of time. So your dad, you went and it was an escape and a good experience for the most part, right?
With my birth father?
Yeah. Oh, it was not. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, it's okay.
Oh, okay. I was getting confused. Okay. So, you went.
I moved out there and I had given myself 3.5 months. I'd had a relationship back in Chattanooga where this person felt like they needed some space. I thought, okay, I'll give you space. I'll hold off college and nursing school, and I'll go get to know my birth father. And in those 3.5 months, I did learn about him and realized, thank you, Lord, he did not raise me. After a week of being there, or 2 weeks, I guess, I had gotten involved with an Episcopal church. I had signed up for a co-ed volleyball team, again, making it happen within a short period. And one day he says, you would like to wash my van, wouldn't you? And it was on a Sunday. And I said, well, I can do it tomorrow because I'm going to go work with the youth group at the Episcopal church. And he quit talking to me for 2 weeks. I had never been around that. I'd never experienced that kind of abuse. And so that happened several different times and a lot of other things. But when I came back to Chattanooga, this boyfriend that I had, when I came, I said, you didn't write me. You didn't call me like you said you would. And he got more involved in his fingernails while I was visiting than anything. And I was like, I'm not taking this. And I left and didn't have any good breakup situation with him at all. And then the next predator, he had been a neighbor years ago, and I had babysat his kids, and I was about 12 as long as my mom was there, and a whole nother grooming went on. And I know it was very related to those experiences with that boyfriend and with my birth father, these two people who were significant to me, and being rejected. And it just opened that door again, and I went through another grooming situation.
So this was at that point 3?
Yes.
And at what age were you on that
was I was 18, 19.
Okay, so it was like it was just cycles of abuse that you, and when I read your bio, you kind of talk about what is wrong with me? Why do I keep having this happen? Right?
Yeah, right.
So you question that a lot.
I did. I'm like, what? Why does this happen? Why does the shoe drop every other time I'll turn around, the shoe's dropping again, so to speak? Here it goes. My mom ended up, when she was single again, after my stepfather and they divorced, she brought in a friend and her daughter to live with us to help pay for that, because we had like a 5-bedroom split level house. In a nutshell, she was so much fun. We had a great time. This is back when backgammon, at least where I lived, we were 10 years behind you guys, but backgammon was big, and Casey and the Sunshine Band, and we loved to dance. My dad owned an Arthur Murray dance studio, so I learned ballroom dancing at a young age and loved to dance. And one night, I didn't make it home to play backgammon with her, and she had to have somebody with her. She ends up going to this guy at a hotel where he managed, and she broke her neck and became a quadriplegic that night from her neck down. And her daughter was living with us, and it was horrific. My mom had just started really getting her feet under her and was laughing. Those two were going out and dancing, and I would stay home with the daughter and take care of her. And then that just died. She was never able to do a lot. And so I was going to ICU, and, I was 16, 17, trying to help her anyway. But anyway, it was just like a series.
It's like a series of, that's how it happens. It's thing after thing after thing after thing. How did you deal with like processing the anchor piece of it? Like, I know we talked about the faith aspect of it, but
yes.
There has to be a period where you just were like, I can't, no more. Tell me about that.
It was. And it's a kind of funny story, but I was on the governing body at a young age in the Episcopal Church after I had moved back. And it's called a vestry. And we had discussions about getting a computer. And this is in, 1981, 82, 83, something. Yeah, around that. And I had this huge thing about computers. It was from Mr. Roboto, reading 1984, George Orwell, before that ever came out. Before 1984, I had this huge phobia about this. It's going to be dehumanizing, like where we are today. But
with AI. Yeah.
So I had all that, right, going. And I asked my priest if I could meet with him, and he ended up telling me, this is not all about the computers. I think you need counseling. And I'm like, because I had told him, if we decide to get the computer and it's smashed, you'll know who did it.
Oh, meaning you. So what you're saying is, I'm just trying to understand, all of this, because it's PTSD, all of this stuff was basically making you paranoid about anything that could potentially happen. I did an episode actually last week with another podcaster who suffers with complex PTSD as well. And we talked a lot about having like an escape route. Like for me, like if I go to like a movie theater, I still kind of struggle with this, or in crowded spaces. I went to Disneyland this week with my youngest, and we went on a ride, and I do kind of struggle with claustrophobia. If I'm you're underground, and we were going on Indiana Jones, and my mind always goes, oh my God, what if there was an earthquake right now? Like this would be the end. And this is all part of like our brains not being able to process, because we've dealt with thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. So then eventually you go, well, are the computers going to take over? Well, if the computers take over, so this all pieces together. So that was kind of your breaking point, and thank God somebody said it's time to get some intervention here, right?
Absolutely. And that he was so insightful. But I was like, counseling, did you not hear me? I have all my bats at home, and I'm going to, and like, this isn't all about computers. And that started me on the path of therapy.
So tell me about the piece of, for the sake of time, tell me about what you found in therapy. Did you start with talk therapy? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
I did. The first one was like at like a Department of Human Services, because I told my priest I can't afford this. He said, you can afford her. She'll charge on a sliding scale. So for $1, I started out, and she did family systems. And I just remember that very first time, her moving into another room because of my family tree was just all over the place. And so, but then it was starting to get good. I started getting in touch with things like when my father would call, my birth father would call, I found myself sitting on the floor in my little duplex and being frozen, just freezing, like cold, shaking, no matter what the temperature was. And I remember her, helping me process that. And then she and her husband moved to Boston. So, but it was a good beginning and a foundation. And I have more or less continued that kind of therapy to understand myself more. And that's been really, really helpful. I used to hustle for love. And of course, it would get turned the other way around. And I was taken advantage of. And so I've just learned a lot through talk therapy, for sure.
Have you done any other kind of therapy, or just mainly talk?
Yeah, I have done other things. But I've explored a lot of different things, honestly, just to learn about myself. I mean, I even went to a parenting class that was at church when I was 16, just so I could learn how to break the cycle and maybe do things differently. Mm-hmm. I knew my mom was doing the best she could with what she had, but I wanted to do it differently. And so I did. I started self-educating. I remember I'm okay, you're okay, reading that. I mean, I was putting my hands on self-help stuff, and I minored in psychology with my nursing degree. And so a lot of different combinations that I sought out.
I'm curious as to when you first got into therapy, and you said were you able to voice what had happened to you and the abuse, and what it was like to really talk about that and release it, and how you felt, like, to be able to feel seen.
Yes. And feeling seen is amazing. I did not share any of that at all for a long time. And I've been with my current therapist for probably 14 or 15 years. So, trust, and I'm sure for you, trust doesn't come easily. You have to really kind of earn it. I mean, I'm better about that. But really, my husband made the biggest difference. When I met him, I was about to travel around the world by myself for 8 months and take a leave of absence at the hospital. I was tired of the dating scene and all of that. And then I met my husband, and the money I had saved went towards our wedding. And he is such an amazing person. He listens. He talks, he shares, we share everything. And I would say that was the beginning for me. And I remember when we were living together, I mean, we really met and got engaged and married in 5 months. I thought it would take me years of living with someone. I never wanted to get divorced. But anyway, that's how it went for us. Communication turned out to be the key. So one time I was having an asthma attack and I didn't want to experience that with anybody else. All of a sudden, I feel like I have a mirror on the ceiling because it's not just me anymore. It's somebody else. And I'll never forget, I came back, I said I needed to take a walk, and I came back and he said, "Are you mad at me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not mad at you. I have asthma. I need to use my inhalant. I'm going to be coughing for the next hour. I'm embarrassed. I don't want you." So with him being so safe, that started it for me. And then therapy all along. It took me a long time, but I did tell my husband everything. He knew everything, but I really did
I have to tell you, and because I'm emotional hearing this, because I feel that way about my husband. I for my whole life was like, I met him in my 20s, but he's my person.
Yeah.
I lost my best friend who was like, I think my other person. And like, I think soulmates come in different forms, which can be friendship too. But my husband is like my safe place as well. And so like, I trust him. He has to put up with a whole lot with me.
Because, like me.
Yeah, like he puts up with like all of the trauma, and I know it's not easy being married to me. And sometimes not him. I mean, he's like, right. We're human, but right. I find that really touching, and it's almost like a spiritual thing too, that for your whole life, we're dealing with like running and not being able to trust. And then you found that person.
I did.
And how lucky you are. So how long have you been together?
35 years.
Yeah. That's Ron and I have been together 25 right now. Like,
awesome.
Yeah. So, but it's really something to find your person in your spouse, especially, and raise kids with that person, and nothing's perfect. I probably couldn't stand him this morning when he left for work, but I think it's important. And I'm so grateful. I really am so grateful. And I do think there's like a spiritual component to it, yes, that he was sent to me. That's what I think.
Love that. And that's exactly it. He is, I really felt like, I'll become a blubbering mess if I go too far into it, but I really felt like he was a gift from God.
Yeah.
I was leaving. I was gone. I had my little house up for sale, and anyway, it's a long story, but I really felt like he was a gift from God, and I still believe that. And I have so much gratefulness for him. He is so well loved. His patients love him. If a little kid gets a paper cut, they want to go see Dr. Maley. How many kids want to go to their pediatrician? But
I love that. Well, yeah. I think like I'm so happy to hear that you found that person. So tell me a little bit about the book for the sake of time. So
Sure.
Like, I know that you said you've always wanted to write your book, write your story since you were young, correct?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to write a book, and I didn't know what it was going to be until Me Too, the Me Too movement. And this is just an arc of my book. It's the advanced reading copy. But
I love that picture. If you're watching on YouTube, she's holding the book up right now. How old were you in that picture?
I was about 13.
Yeah.
About 13.
Yeah. That girl had been through a lot already.
Yes, really had. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
No, it's okay. No, I was saying what inspired what actually made you sit down and say, this is the time to write my book? Because I'm writing a book right now that's, my listeners know, will probably never be out because I can't seem to like actually sit down and finish it. Because it's a lot, especially when you're dealing with all the trauma. Every time you have to sit down and rehash it. So tell me a little bit about that, the process, and how you actually,
So the Me Too movement came out, and all of a sudden the places I had in my heart, the like secret pouch that I kept everything in there, started melting. And I was just like, you know what? I think I want to tell my story. And so I had a friend who's a professional editor, and I met her at a writing retreat in 2013 in Montana. And I had a person here help being with me as a line editor. He worked in newspapers for years, and we weren't that terribly close, but anyway, he did that. So those two worked with me, but I did it as an autobiography. I told the story. I researched. I tried to find how my memories, how accurate they were in any way I could, and I told it. So it wasn't a memoir. And she had Laura Munson, who's my professional editor, she's like, "You're going to be writing 2 different books." I'm like, "It's okay. I need to get it out. I now know I need to get this out." And Me Too opened that door. Well, in the process of writing this, and then COVID opened the door for me to go ahead and do the memoir. So here I am checking grammatical or sentence structure mistakes with a male locally for line editing. And whenever I would be writing and setting the scenes of these very challenging situations, that's typically when I'd want to tell and get out of scene because it was so hard. And so there would be the issues, and he would challenge me and say, well, he would just say, "We need to go over the sentence." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really? This is with a male and stuff." But what I found in the process of writing my book, another layer of healing took place that I didn't even expect. Because now I am currently 63, and I can go back to the little girl in me in those scenarios where I didn't deal with it and I didn't have the tools to deal with it. And now I can tell her, "I've got you. You are safe. And I want to get in touch with those feelings that you had at the time that you shoved down. And so I need to get there. So I have to go back into the scene. I have to go back to those moments like you did in the first of our conversation with COVID. I'm back in there, and now I'm setting the scene, and I'm writing about it, in pretty much detail. And there's another layer of healing because you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I survived that. I did survive it. And now I have who I am. I'm comfortable in my skin now, and I can hug that little girl and get in touch with her feelings that she didn't let herself. And then be able to write it like she felt for real, but not how she handled it. So
I think it's such an important piece too, to talk to our younger selves, and tell our younger selves it's not your fault. It's going to be okay. It's all pieces. If you're listening right now, that's part of therapy. And I say all the time recently on a lot of my podcasts, you can run from your trauma, but you cannot hide because it's going to come out. Yeah. And so the best thing you can do, listeners, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I like to drink, or I like to shop, or I like to do this, or I'm just going to push it down. It's always going to come back up. Yeah. So however you need to get that out, and you need to talk to, your younger self and love your younger self, then I think the therapy and the writing the book alone is something to be grateful for. Okay. So I need to, in closing, ask you, where can my listeners find the book? It won't be out until November 4th, but is it out for pre-order right now?
It is. They can go to any bookstore or go online. They can go to my website, which is stephmaley.com, and you can pre-order the book. And so it's out everywhere, and it's crazy. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's gotta be a feeling of like almost running a marathon. Just, I did this, right? I did this. And I know you told me, for my listeners before we started recording, she said, this is my first podcast I've done. And I just have to tell you, you did the best job. And I am so happy that I met you and I got to have you on, because I think you're wonderful.
Well, thank you. I feel the same about you. I love that you do this. And again, you're giving to the people who need to hear it the most. And that's the only reason I did the memoir, because I'd rather just sit in my office and write. But if I'm going to get it to the people in the hands, I've got to do I've got to do the distribution of the book. So
yeah,
we're doing
it's a needed thing. It's survivors out there. You're going to be okay. I said it in the beginning. We're going to be okay. There's a lot of us out there, and we need to share our stories, and we need to lift each other up right now. And I know we talked a lot about spirituality, and I think that, like, for Stephanie and myself, that's a huge piece of my life. But whatever your thing is, just know you're going to be okay. So in closing, thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
In closing, everyone, keep going. You matter. Your story matters.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.